What if the single biggest financial mistake you're making right now isn't what you think it is? You've been told to pay off debt. You've been told to invest early. But nobody told you about the 5% rule, and that might be costing you everything. See, here's what happened to me. I was sitting there, staring at my credit card statement. $8,000. Interest rate? 18%. And at the same time, I had $8,000 just sitting in my checking account. Everyone said the same thing. Pay it off. Get rid of the debt. You'll sleep better. And you know what? Part of me believed them. But another part of me kept thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if there's something I'm missing here? Because here's the thing nobody talks about. Every dollar you have, it's not just a dollar. It's a choice. Pay off debt with it. I'll put it to work somewhere else. And the problem is, most people make this decision based on how they feel, not on what actually makes sense. And that's where the 5% rule comes in. But we'll get to that in a second. Because first, you need to understand why this question even matters. Think about it like this. Let's say you have $10,000 sitting around. Could be savings. Could be a bonus. Could be an inheritance. Doesn't matter. You also have debt. Maybe it's a car loan at 4%. Maybe it's student loans at 6%. Maybe it's a credit card at 22%. And on the other side, you've been hearing about investing. The stock market returns 10% on average. They say, compound interest is magic. They say, start early. They say, so now you're stuck. Do you eliminate the debt and feel that weight lift off your shoulders? Or do you invest and let time do the heavy lifting? Most people choose based on emotion. They hate debt. It feels wrong. It feels like a chain around their neck. So they pay it off, feel amazing for like 3 days, and then they are back to zero. No debt? Sure. But also, no wealth, no momentum, no compounding working in their favor. And 5 years later, they are still starting from scratch while everyone else who invested early is years ahead. But here's where it gets tricky. Because sometimes, paying off debt is the right move. And sometimes, it's the worst thing you could do. So how do you know? That's the problem. And that's exactly what the 5% rule solves. Let me explain. The 5% rule is dead simple, but it changes everything. Here it is. If the interest rate on your debt is above 5%, pay it off first. If it's below 5%, invest instead. That's it. That's the whole rule. But before you roll your eyes and think, okay, cool, thanks for the math lesson, let me tell you why this works and why it's not just about the numbers. First, let's talk about the math side, because yeah, it matters. When your debt has an interest rate above 5%, you're essentially losing money every single month. That 18% credit card, you're bleeding 18% annually. That's guaranteed loss. Now compare that to investing. The stock market averages around 10% per year. But here's the kicker, that's an average. Some years it's up 25%. Some years it's down 15%. It's volatile. It's unpredictable. But your debt, that 18% is locked in. It's guaranteed. So when you pay off high-interest debt, you're essentially getting an 18% guaranteed return. Show me an investment that does that. You can't. It doesn't exist. So mathematically, paying off debt above 5% is a no-brainer. You're getting a risk-free return that beats almost anything else you could do with that money. But here's where most people stop thinking. They hear pay off debt, and they think, got it, all debt is bad. Let me pay off everything. And that's where they screw up, because not all debt is created equal. Let's say you have a mortgage at 3%, student loans at 4%, a car loan at 3.5%. All of that is below 5%. Now, if you take every extra dollar you have and throw at that debt, what are you doing? You're getting a 3% return, maybe 4%. That's it. But if you took that same money and invested it in a simple index fund, historically, you'd average around 10%. That's a 6% to 7% difference every single year. And over 10, 20, 30 years, that difference is massive. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. But here's the thing, and this is the part nobody tells you. This isn't just about math. It's about psychology. Because yeah, paying off debt feels good. It feels like progress. It feels like you're doing the responsible thing. And for high-interest debt, you are. But for low-interest debt, you're not being responsible. You're being emotional. And emotions are expensive. Let me give you a real example. Meet Sarah. She's 28. She has $30,000 in student loans at 4% interest. She also has $30,000 saved up. Her friends tell her, pay off the loans. Be debt-free. Imagine how good that'll feel. So she does. She wipes out the debt. Feels amazing. Posts about it on Instagram. Gets 100 likes. Life is good. Except now she has $0. No emergency fund. No investments. Nothing. She's back to square one. Now meet Jake. Same situation. $30,000 in loans at 4%. $30,000 saved. But Jake does something different. He keeps making his minimum payments on the loans. Takes that $30,000 and invests it. 10 years later, Sarah has no debt, but she's only just started investing. She's maybe got $15,000 in her retirement account. Jake? He still has that loan, but his $30,000 has grown to around $78,000, assuming a 10% average return. Even after paying off the loan with interest, he's way ahead. We're talking $40,000 to $50,000 ahead. That's a house down payment. That's financial freedom. That's the cost of choosing feelings over logic. Now I know what you're thinking. But what if the market crashes? What if I invest and lose everything? Fair question. And here's the honest answer. Yes, the market will crash. It always does. But here's what most people don't realize. You're not investing for next year. You're investing for 20, 30, 40 years from now. And over that kind of timeline, the market always recovers. Always. Every single crash in history has been followed by new highs. The 2008 crash? Recovered. The 2020 crash? Recovered in like 6 months. The dot-com bubble? Recovered. If you're investing for the long term, short-term crashes don't matter. In fact, they're opportunities. You're buying stocks on sale. But let's get back to the 5% rule, because there's another layer to this. The rule isn't just about interest rates. It's about opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend paying off low-interest debt is a dollar that's not compounding for you. And compounding is the most powerful force in finance. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say you're 30 years old. You put $10,000 into an index fund and never touch it. By the time you're 60, assuming a 10% average return, that $10,000 is worth around $174,000. Now let's say you waited 5 years. You paid off debt first, then invested $10,000 at age 35. By 60, that's only worth around $108,000. You just lost $66,000 by waiting 5 years. That's the cost of delaying. That's what low-interest debt does to you if you prioritize it over investing. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The 5% rule isn't just about what you should do. It's about what you can do. Because once you understand this, you start seeing money differently. You stop thinking in black and white. You stop thinking debt is bad, investing is good. You start thinking in returns. You start thinking in opportunity. You start asking yourself, what's the best use of this dollar right now? And that's when things click. Because suddenly, you're not just following advice. You're making decisions. You're in control. And that feeling, that's worth more than any strategy. Now, let me hit you with the uncomfortable truth. Most people will never do this. They'll hear the 5% rule, nod their heads, and then do exactly what they were going to do anyway. They'll pay off debt because it feels safe, because it feels responsible, because that's what their parents did. And you know what? That's fine. But they'll also wonder why they're always behind, why they're always starting over, why wealth feels impossible. But you're still here. You're still reading, which means you're different. You're someone who actually wants to understand this. And that's rare. So let me give you the exact framework. Here's how you actually apply the 5% rule in real life. Step 1. List out all your debts. Write down the interest rate for each one. Credit cards, student loans, car loans, mortgage, all of it. Step 2. Separate them. Anything above 5% goes in the payoff immediately pile. Anything below 5% goes in the minimum payments only pile. Step 3. Take every extra dollar you have and attack the high interest debt first. Highest rate first. Avalanche method. Step 4. Once the high interest debt is gone, take those same dollars and start investing. Index funds, retirement accounts, whatever makes sense for you. Step 5. Keep making minimum payments on the low interest debt. Let it sit. Let inflation erode it. Let your investments outpace it. That's it. That's the system. And it works because it's not emotional. It's not based on what feels right. It's based on what is right. Mathematically, logically, objectively. But here's the final piece. And this is the part that most people miss. The 5% rule isn't just about money. It's about mindset. Because once you start thinking this way, you stop being reactive. You stop making decisions based on fear or guilt or pressure. You start making decisions based on opportunity. And that changes everything. Not just your finances. Everything. Because here's the thing. The people who build real wealth, they don't do it by avoiding debt. They do it by using debt. They borrow at 3% and invest at 10%. They understand leverage. They understand opportunity cost. They understand that money is a tool, not a moral issue. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So yeah, the 5% rule. It's simple, it's powerful, and it's something you can start using today. Right now, go look at your debts. Go look at your interest rates. And make the call. Because the difference between where you are now and where you want to be, it's not luck. It's not timing. It's decisions like this. Small decisions. Repeated over time. And if this clicked for you, if this made you see money differently, do me a favor. Don't just close this and forget about it. Hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me what your biggest debt is and what the interest rate is. Let's figure this out together. And subscribe, because this is just beginning. There's so much more to talk about, but only if you actually want to hear it. Because here's the reality. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to hand you a roadmap. You have to build it yourself. But you don't have to do it alone. And you don't have to do it blind. You just have to make better decisions. Starting right now. So, pay off debt or invest. You already know the answer. The 5% rule. Use it and watch what happens.